Yo,
Welcome to our latest webisode. And we have a lot to cover today. Quite a bit,
yeah,
actually.
yeah, a lot going on. I was actually jerking it to images of the orange sky in Oregon because I get off on shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad out there. Um, if you were to look at one of these forest fire maps that are going around, you're going to see that the fires are starting up, what was it, almost to the Canadian border, all the way down. So it's pretty
Mm.
much the entire West Coast.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some in Canada too. We can include a shot of it.
Yeah.
Um,
It's pretty surreal looking at those skies, though. I mean, you have orange skies, some that are even like deep, deep red. And I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I thought a lot of these things were probably like filters. I thought that first
well,
didn't really hit me because I mean, it's just not something you see. I mean, imagine you walk outside and everything's fucking red.
yeah, I mean that is not like that's that's pretty common, not common, but like if there's a fire, anywhere near you, it changes the color of the sky, right? So like in Southern California, like there could be a fire like 50 miles out in like Riverside or something, and it would
Hmm.
still, it would either be smoky or it'd be dark or whatever. So that's not necessarily that's not necessarily the sign of apocalypse that people say it is. What is the sign of apocalypse is just how many fires there are,
Yeah. So,
like.
so you lived in Cali at the time, at one point, right? So,
Mhm.
I mean, did you ever were the fires ever a thing when you were living out there?
I mean, not in SoCal by me, but um, when I went and visited, I had a buddy who worked on a farm up in the Sierra Nevadas, and I'd go up and visit him sometimes, and
Yeah.
there was always fires up there. Like small fires are normal, right? Like
Right.
they happen every year, and it's like good for the farm, for the wilderness in a lot of ways to
Yeah. I
have
mean, well, I
occasional
mean, it's a
fires. But
natural process, right, to get rid of a lot of that brush. But
yeah,
I mean, people are pointing a lot to climate change right now about it with
that's
the.
not the problem, though. I mean, it makes it easier for fires to spread, right?
Mhm.
But like,
I mean,
what?
does it exacerbate the problem?
Yeah, no, well, like, yeah, because it makes it drier, right? And it was already
Right.
dry out there, so like it just makes it drier. But like the reason they have the fires is because the grid is not maintained properly, and they didn't have the investment in fire prevention.
Yeah.
Like
And
it's
that is something that we talked a bit about.
it's
In the.
austerity is to
Yeah.
blame more than climate change, right? Like it's not that they can't effectively develop a policy to keep the fires from getting out of control. It's that they don't want to spend the money, and the private company, who's PG&E, who's
Mhm.
supposed to be footing the bill for this, don't they won't they can't be held to account because the fucking Newsom is in their pocket. So
Yeah.
there's
So, I mean,
this is a
it does seem.
capitalism problem,
Yeah.
not really. It is a climate change problem, but like first and
It,
foremost, it's a
it
problem with capitalism or
yeah.
neoliberalism to be specific.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me like it's a collection of problems because there's only one way problems get this bad is when you have a bunch of shit go wrong. So
Yeah.
you have that stuff with PG&E, and then you have temperatures out there that are topping 100 right now,
Hmm.
too.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, it's making a situation that was already bad worse, and that's why you're seeing these Blade Runner esque, somebody fucked around and put the um,
Yes.
dystopian wasteland filter over the simulation.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the other story out of the West Coast out there in Portland, we covered the beginnings of it, but we didn't really get to go into it all that much. Was when we had a confrontation out there in Portland where a member of the right wing Patriot prayer group was shot and killed by Michael Reinoehl. And he was out there with among the protesters. Now, this guy that was killed as part of that right wing group was participating in macing and doing all kinds of other kind of crap. So, it what you if you looked at the video that we had to repost a bunch of times, um, he was macing the guy, and afterwards, Mr. Reno he went ahead and did an interview with Vice News
Hmm.
and claiming self defense and all that kind of stuff, and he claimed that he was providing security for Black Lives Matter that were out there marching. And following this confrontation shortly after this interview, he was killed by U.S. Marshals who tracked down his location.
Yeah, they assassinated him.
Essentially, that's what it sounds like, and it to me, it reeked of cop killer treatment. That's exactly what it popped in my head right away. It's like, okay, he killed one of us. That's why we're gonna go ahead and shoot
Yeah,
this guy 30 times.
right. Yeah,
That's just where my mind went right away. It's like, okay, we're gonna treat this dude like he's Chris Dorner. That's exactly what we're gonna do, and it's really eye opening, to know that that's exactly the kind of thing that the people out there are up against, and the people that agree with what the protesters are out there trying to get accomplished are up against, because there's camaraderie, and you can see somebody out there wearing "Don't Tread on Me" flag right next to a Blue Lives Matter flag, and it's pretty haunting. I gotta say, just from the way that they're gonna react if you go out there and defend yourself.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. There was all that shady stuff about his background. Like people were saying that it was sus that he, was sort of very normy, and then all of a sudden, like in May or so, he just became super. Started posting like Antifa this and Antifa that.
Mhm.
So like, I mean, that's completely not beyond the pale for these fuckers. Like they would totally do something like that. Like, whatever agency or private mercenaries or whatever, like they would totally set up a hit job basically and, kill one of the Patriot Prayer guys and then, either, kill him or fake, who's to say he's actually dead, all that stuff. Like it could totally be an op just because of the way they used it. I don't think it is, but like, I think that there was some legitimate reason to think that, but it's, it's kind of what I expected was going to happen, right? Like,
Yeah, I don't think it's all that surprising.
and the fact that
Which
he
is a
did the
sad thing.
interview too, though, that's
Yeah.
also kind of sus. Like, when does that ever happen? Like, he's a fugitive and he goes and does an interview with Vice, and then it's like they claim that he had a gun when he was, when they were trying to get him. It's like that's also kind of implausible that you would pull a gun,
On a
when
bunch of
there's
U.S. Marshals are coming up
when
and
there's
trying to get
40
you.
cops surrounding you.
And
Like,
why are there 40 fucking cops there in the first? Was there 40 fucking cops there to arrest Kyle Rittenhouse?
no, no.
No. What happened with Kyle Rittenhouse since his arrest is there was a GoFundMe that was set up by a Christian group, and essentially it made him a millionaire now. That's what
Yeah,
happens when you're on the right and you shoot 4 people.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, man. Like, hold on. I'm about to pause this shit. I'm just distracting again. Hold on. Yeah, like, I think, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to see this, like, I'd like to see how they responded in another kind of situation like that.
Mhm.
Like, I just feel like it's all too convenient the way it went down. So, it's like they don't do like a lot of times that the stuff they do now with like the MK Ultra stuff is they don't even like it's not like he's a Manchurian candidate. It's just they have him programmed to react in a certain way and they trigger it, So I mean, I don't know. Do I think this is going to change anything? No,
Do you
right?
think it's
But
gonna
like,
go? Do you think it'll prevent more lefties from going out there armed, or you think it's gonna encourage them?
no, I think it'll be the same.
The other big story over here that has to do a little bit with the MAGA chuds is they held a support President Trump parade over in the Texas Gulf of Mexico area. Oh, actually, was it there? No, it was a Lake Travis out there in Austin. And
Yeah,
this was this past Saturday afternoon, and during their Trump Pride parade, 5 of their boats sank to the bottom of the lake. So, guess we can say that Lake Travis is officially indoctrinated into Antifa.
fuck yeah. I mean, like Travis, I think there was already a pretty lefty, hotspot, right?
Yeah, I mean Austin's like one of the more democratic leaning counties in Texas, so it's one of the few major. I mean, I think when you go into the urban areas in anywhere, it's probably gonna go ahead and lean more away from those red kind of districts, but still, it was pretty it was pretty hilarious to go and see. I mean, nobody ended up dying. Everybody's okay, but 5 other boats ended up sinking. It was I was kind of unclear about what caused them to go ahead and sink, but apparently it was just rough waters and so many boats over there clustered all together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it was. It was like, people, showboating and all, right?
Yeah.
And not, those people are all assholes, right? Like, think about what kind of asshole gets involved in a Trump boat parade, you know? Like,
Yeah. Well, one of the people out there that were part of the parade and everything, this was a comment from I'm a school teacher. I think our kids belong back in school. I think COVID has been overrated. And I know people have lost loved ones, but if we look at the not underlying issue cases, it's not that huge.
what? Because she wants the kids to go back to school?
Yeah.
Uh, and like Trump is going to do that?
I mean,
Like,
I guess we'll get into it a little bit in a little bit about this, but it's all part of this politicization that has gone on around COVID that was completely unnecessary to begin with. But um, since we're gonna go up on Trump news, next thing I wanted to go in and cover a bit was well, our fine orange president has been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. The Norwegian Parliament member Christian, I'm not gonna even attempt that last name,
uh,
said that Trump should be considered for the Nobel Peace Prize because of his work with the United Arab Emirates and Israel.
um, what was that? What was that guy's name? The who shot all the Muslims?
Um,
Anders Breivik. Yeah, that's the guy who nominated him.
uh,
Like, I mean, I'm gonna give you my edgy hot take on this, but technically speaking, right? If we're just looking at diplomacy internationally, right?
okay,
There's he did some decent things, right? Like that was one of the few areas where he didn't put his foot in it as much, right?
okay,
The North Korea thing, I don't know if that was a net positive. I mean, the North Korea thing was probably a net positive for the world, if not America, because
mhm,
it kind of hurt us probably, but I think it was probably better for the region. It was probably better for South Korea that Trump met with them, right? It was probably better for our allies in the region. That was probably the best thing he did, right? Like, it was that. And, the UAE shit is like, that's nothing, right? That's like something that was already there.
right.
And he got them kind of admit it, like
I, to
it.
me, I chalk this up to fascist solidarity.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. Like,
There's a far right leaning member of the parliament gonna nominate the far right president of the United States and try to get him some brownie points for his election. I think that's what the from a from I mean from a practical standpoint, I just don't think that he deserves any kind of award for at
of
least for
course
not
not.
for
No,
yeah.
he's literally one of the worst people in the world, like bar none. Like he's
So it
deplorable in every sense of the word. Like
yeah.
he belongs in hell. Like it's like if we passed Medicare for all and gave everybody health care, I would be fine leaving him off. Like he's that terrible. He'd be the one guy I didn't give health care to. But like,
Be like, yeah, just not you, Trump. Yeah. Well, I know two people that we got to bring up right now. One is gonna probably be on your side. Another one will be arguing idiotically against you. So Candace Owens and Cardi B had a
you ain't
blow up
black, you
this
won't vote for
week.
me. She's still mad about that.
They had a major beef about this though. I mean, what can you say? They went back and forth, um, trading pot shots, and well, Cardi B had took this shot at Candace Owens, where forget bootlicking, Candace Owens will deep throat the entire leg. All the performative
She
bullshit
said
she
that to
did.
her.
Yeah, she retweeted
Cardi
this,
B
so it's
said,
obvious.
"Oh,
This is something that she retweeted directly. So I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is what she's trying to go and communicate over to Candace Owens. All the performative bullshit she did to sell out her own people, and they never even invited her to the RNC. Meanwhile, my girl Cardi B is out here doing Zoom calls with presidential candidates. I think that's what it stemmed out from, right? Because Biden decided to speak with Cardi B.
yeah."
Yeah, see, so I mean, Candace Owens, let's just get this out of the way. She's a grifter,
She's
and she sells out the black community any chance she gets because she'll cash a check about it. I think Dave Chappelle went in on her in a pretty justifiable way when she had to open her mouth about George Floyd, saying about why is the black community making him a hero when it's not anything to do with the black community or anybody out there that's marching on behalf of criminal justice to make him a hero. He was made a hero because he was murdered over a $20 check.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but she doesn't care about any of that shit. She just is using like sophistry. She's just like a shitty version of Ben Shapiro, and that's the one thing she does. And the other thing is like, launders racist shit so that Chuds can repeat it.
That's exactly what it is.
It's like her and Tim Scott and like people like that. Like they just say the racist shit for them.
Like exactly. So like to explain what you mean by that racial, that racist laundering kind of stuff.
They'll talk about like black on black crime. Or
they'll say shit. What they'll do is they'll say shit that their white counterparts won't be able to get away with because they're not black. That's what it is. They'll go ahead and say that, and once they say it, it's out in the forum, and everybody else can go ahead and repeat it that agrees with whatever grift that she's trying to push out there. So I'm glad that Cardi B, went and humiliated her a bunch of times, even though, Candace Owens went and pulled the Mayor Pete and said that, R.I.P. Cardi B and all that other kind of shit that they were saying after. But
yeah,
I mean, that's to be expected. I mean, I don't know anybody outside the right wing circles that will go ahead and say that Candace Owens has any kind of credibility with anything she says at this point. I mean, she went on Rogan once and
got humiliated.
Yeah, got humiliated.
That's what's so
by young Jamie.
Is though it's like they never accept like getting humiliated. It's always like they try to put their spin on it, and it's like a lot of them seem to genuinely believe that version of events. Like I bet you they think she did great on Rogan. Right? I bet you so. There's some version of that where she owned him with facts and logic, and it's like all of their shit.
Is that a .com? Is that a
yeah, like how fucking dumb. And that's the other thing is they're so dumb too. It's like they're like libs, right? Like libs are dumb as shit too. So like the same thing would happen to them. Like if Joe Biden went on Rogan and embarrassed himself, they would find a way to not admit that.
Let's go on to this next story. It's a little bit of well, it plays into the stuff that has been happening lately, where a mother had called for help from the police, and when the police arrived, they shot her 13-year-old who has autism. He's recovering now. This was out in Utah, and she had asked for a crisis intervention team because her son was having a mental breakdown, and they responded by shooting him.
Yeah, that's what they are supposed to do. That's what cops, they show up, and whenever there's a 13-year-old kid having a traumatic event, like the police playbook, it just says fucking cap them. That's step one. You don't do anything. You don't like tase him. You don't rubber bullet him. You don't even beat him. You just pull out your gun and cap him. That's pop, pop, pop.
But the cops. I mean, I don't.
That was funny. You should have laughed at that.
I mean, it's just I'm trying to think about this shit. It's just like the cops should not be the ones that you have to call for some shit like this, and they're supposed. I mean, I'm sure this mother was calling, anticipating that they de-escalate the situation and just take the kid to the hospital or something like that. Not in the way he ended up in the hospital, but they just go ahead and take him to some trained professionals that are better equipped to go ahead and deal with it and de-escalate, not shoot the kid. All right, now this was a big story though. A U.S. court has vindicated Mr. Edward Snowden. 7 years after the fact that he turned whistleblower on the NSA's spying program, the court ruled that the program was unconstitutional and violated the Fourth Amendment.
Wait, can you explain that again a little slower?
The ruling that was handed down from the Court of Appeals, it was the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, is that the warrantless telephone dragnet that secretly collected millions of Americans' telephone records violated the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and may well have been unconstitutional. So
do
the
you know
whole
any like the rationale for it, like the reasoning?
didn't really go into the rationale in the article that I found here, but the idea is, I mean, Snowden's reasoning for doing what he did was because he felt it was unconstitutional as the program was being implemented. It was a mass surveillance program on everybody, which doesn't serve any purpose for intelligence efforts because you're just data mining at that point.
Um,
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, to get a ruling like this is a point where, I mean, and this dude has to get pardoned at some point. I still doubt that he'd come. I doubt he'd come back to the U.S. because I still think that they'll probably try to whack him.
I mean, I don't know. I think that they have more hatred for Assange, right? I think
Yeah,
Assange is much more hated, and he's hated by everybody too. Like Snowden has his defenders pretty much like it's not even like ideologue. Like the left defends him, right? But like there's some, there's a handful of principled right wingers who seem to defend
hmm
him, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, you even have some of the Republican lawmakers saying that trying to go to Snowden's defense. Even somebody like Matt Gaetz. It was crazy to think about it like that. But there was one part of the story that was really interesting though. Was the U.S. officials were claiming that four, um, I guess, terrorists were convicted using this program.
so
But
that
when
they
the
let him
ninth,
go.
while the Ninth Circuit ruled on Wednesday that those claims by the U.S. officials were inconsistent with the contents of the classified record.
Uh, wow. So they lied. So they stole everybody's info and then they still lied about it.
Yeah, they stole everybody's info and said it was for good reason because we were getting convictions. And then the court looked at the documents and said, no, there was nothing useful you could get out of a program like this. This is just a mass surveillance program, and there's nothing you can really decipher between all that data to find anything that would be useful in an investigation.
Um,
All right, and our big story, the breaking news that should have probably broke in February, but Mr. Bob Woodward, if you all know your history, this is one of the Watergate journalists that broke the whole scandal open. He conducted an interview in February
which one is he
with
in the movie?
he was Robert Redford in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he had an interview with President Trump, and he was put together a book over these last few months. And in this interview, Trump, uh, well, not shockingly that he lied about Corona. It turns out that he's been lying about Corona, but to the degree that he was lying, is it's still kind of that he really did. I guess to me it was more surprising that he was really that well versed on what the issue was, and it wasn't just him being an idiot. He knew that Corona was airborne. He knew that it was deadlier than the flu. He knew that people can get it was much more contagious than the flu. And all the while he was out there uh, getting his politicizing Corona and getting his base to go and buy into this politicization. And then you had
Yeah.
at the end of it, right now we're coming up on 200,000 people dead in the country
Yeah.
because of this.
And so, what was President Xi saying yesterday?
Well, we were talking mostly about the virus, and I think he's going to have it in good shape. But it's a very tricky situation.
Indeed,
It goes through air, Bob. That's always tougher than the touch. The touch, you don't have to touch things, right? But the air, you just breathe the air, and that's how it's passed. And so that's a very tricky one. That's a very delicate one. It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus. People don't realize we lose 25,000, 30,000 people a year here. Who would ever think that, right?
I know. It's
pretty amazing. And then I say, well, is that the same thing? This is more deadly. This is 5 per. This is 5% versus 1% and less than 1%. So this is deadly stuff.
That's the fucked up thing is like, not that he like knew about it and didn't say anything, because I feel like that's probably most presidents would have done that, right? It's that
Well, his justification
he knew
was
about
that
it. The way that he responded was he did the opposite, right? He went out and told people it's actually you're a pussy if you wear a mask.
Yeah.
And, I'm gonna cure this shit. Like the bleach
it's gonna
thing,
go
I
away
think
in
is
April.
like
Yeah.
I don't have as much like I agree with the people about the bleach thing. I feel like I defend Trump for that, right? Like, that wasn't really that crazy. He was just kind of like, he was obviously just spitballing ideas like, what if we tried
Right.
this? What if we tried that, right? But
Yeah.
like, the way that he basically was downplaying it in such a way where it was like strategic information that he was intentionally misleading people on
Well,
and turning
that's
it
what he
into a
said. He said
fight.
he said he
He's a
didn't want
fucking
to start a
psycho.
panic.
Like,
He said he
yeah,
didn't want
but
to start
like,
a panic.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But there's a way to do it where you don't start a panic, but you're cognizant of the fact that people are dying from it. So you don't, you say, oh, folks, it's going to be fine, folks. Don't worry about it. I'm going to cure it. No problem.
All
But
you
make sure
gotta
you wear
do
your
is wear.
mask in the meantime. Like, so I'm saying, like, there's a
Yeah.
way to downplay it and still not do what he did. Because what he
Yeah.
did is like unforgivable anyway, but especially knowing that that was his true opinion, his
Right.
private position and his public position.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And I don't know if I mean because Woodward should have came forward with this shit too. So it's not like he doesn't
they
have any of this
wouldn't
shit on
have,
him either.
yeah, but think
But
about how they would have responded, though. They would have
to
been
the
like,
tapes, to the
it would
tapes, to
have
actually
been, I
hearing him say
know.
that.
Yeah. I mean, if he had released the tapes, I'm trying to think, what do you think would have happened if he
What
had
like
released the
they
tapes in April?
what it would have happened is Trump would have had to pivot off. He would have gone and they would have started saying, "Oh, Woodward's trying to start a panic. This is what I was trying to avoid," and he would have made it all about that. But he would have had to change his tact from saying that it's not serious to actually because he can't say that anymore if he's on tape out there saying it. So, I mean, it would have changed that part of it. It might have been able to save some lives in that
Yeah.
respect, but
Fucking Woodward, man.
yeah, I mean, he should have come forward with it. This, he sat on it. I don't know what his motivation was besides selling more books, but that's just one of those things that's fucked up that he used it as an electoral tool, as is according to him, he felt it would make more of an electoral impact releasing it right now in September. But I mean, right now Trump is trailing in all those battleground states, and throwing this on top of it, plus the red sky, plus all the fucking mess in the streets right now. I mean, I'd still say it's about 50-50 because Joe's such a fuck up.
Yeah. It's History Hour with Tony and Matt, where we talk about history. History time.
It's about time for our history segment. And really, there's only
9/11.
Yep. It is 9/11. It is the 19-year anniversary.
Yeah. 19 years. Wow, man, that makes me feel kind of old, huh?
Yep.
Um,
Well, I figured the best thing to go about it. I mean, it's a little bit different because this is a history that a lot of us have lived through and we had to bear witness to. Were you living in New York at the time?
yeah, man, I was there. Like, I have a great 9/11 story. Like, the night before, like, I had just gotten to college, so we were going out every night and raging till the break of dawn. And that club, Wetlands, was like a famous downtown club that had been instrumental in a bunch of different scenes all throughout the 80s and 90s, and they were shutting down, so they had this last week of shows that was just like different scenes they highlighted. So there was one we were at, and it was a bunch of hippie shit. It was like soul coughing, like one of their side projects, and I want to say like some other shit. I forget who it was, but it went till 5 a.m. or whatever, and we left the club and kind of stumbled around because we were like 18-year-old drunk kids, and we ended up getting on the train at the World Trade Center at like 6:15 in the morning. So
On that
like
day?
yeah, like I don't know,
Wow.
about like an hour or two before the planes hit. But like the whole night, I just remember like taking the escalator down the stairs at the World Trade Center. You like there's a train station underneath, so like took the escalator down to it.
You missed
So,
it
like,
by an hour.
Yeah, like I just remember walking down the escalator, and I remember looking up at the building. I did that, but like walking in and being like, damn, that was really great that we got to go to Wetlands before it shut down. And it's like a scene from a movie, right? Like that's like such irony, right? Like, and then, got on the train, went back to school in the Bronx, and ended up sleeping through the first plane. Missed my class. Woke up when we went up on the roof of our dorm and just watched smoke clouds and all, like, just drifting towards us, and you could like smell it in the air, man. It was, like burnt smell, and
Yeah.
I mean, it was fucking scary. Like,
Man, I mean, to think about it, like you were just there
yeah,
like an hour before the plane hit, bro.
yeah, but it's like so crazy too, though, because like that was one of like probably, I could count on one hand the amount of times I went to Lower Manhattan while I was at school. The whole,
Yeah.
7 years I lived there. Like there's no reason to go down there, right? And we shouldn't have gone down there. We should have gotten on a different train station, but we were lost and like, didn't know our way around the city yet. So we stumbled into the World Trade Center, right? Like it was like a 1 in a million chance, right? And then, whatever, just a few hours later, it was gone.
Yep. It's a 1 in a million chance to just be able to leave an hour beforehand too.
And I saw Dick Cheney and Rumsfeld there. They were setting up the bombs in Building 7. So,
well, for me, I mean, I was over here in Texas at the time, and when I was in high school, I used to get to school like mad early, and my teacher would always watch the news, and so we'd watch. I'd walk in, and he had the news on, and by the time I got there, the first plane already hit. So he was all like, "Hey, look, somebody crashed into the plane, past the plane into the one of these towers. It looked like a pretty bad accident. Like it was kind of like nonchalantly." And I was like, "Okay, that's not normal." And everybody kind of just funneled into the classroom, and I had already been watching it for a while, and everyone was just looking at this, the screen. And while we were watching it, I'll never forget this. The teacher goes in every time before school. They had like a pre-recorded like kids news kind of thing, and then he looks around the class like, "Would you rather see this or the real news?"
What?
Yeah, that's what he said. "Would you rather see this or the real news?" And I'm like, "Dude, put the real news on." So then he unplugs the programming thing, and he puts the real news back on. And right when he puts that thing on, like maybe like about 5 minutes later, then we saw the second plane go in.
Wow. So you did see it. Yeah, I remember seeing the second one hit too, because like my roommate was this like Staten Island dude. He was always up early and like used to like smoke cigs loud, like like every morning, and it always wake us up to him like inhaling deeply. But I remember rolling over and like seeing the smoke at the building on the TV screen, and I was like, "Oh, what the fuck happened, man?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, it's just some shit down at the World Trade Center." I'm like, "Oh, is it bad?" And he's like, "Oh, no, it's nothing. It's like not even as bad as last time." Like the 90s
that was
one.
when they had
the car bomb that went off.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, nobody knew what's confusing. What was confusing about? Nobody knew what the fuck was going on, and then you saw the second plane hit, and then the Pentagon hit, and then the planes went down in Pennsylvania, and they grounded all the flights, and nobody even knew how many that they got hijacked, right?
Yeah,
and people thought this shit was gonna.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna get nuked. Like I was terrified.
Yeah.
Like I literally thought we were gonna die in a nuclear holocaust like that day. Like,
nobody knew the extent of it, and there was a weird phenomenon that I haven't seen since though. Was right afterwards, everybody just kind of forgot about all their differences and was kind of just unified.
Unless you were Middle Eastern.
Not even like
remember the Sikhs in Jersey City were getting
I remember that, but then like you saw people kind of be like, no, these aren't who we're going to be after. Then but it was once you put a face on it, once you saw it was Bin Laden, everybody was just like, fuck that guy.
People were pretty Islamophobic in the 90s, man. Like
it was
at
just
that point, casual. Like it was not 90s. I'm sorry, in the aughts, like in the years following 9/11, like it was just built into like the news, just the way they talked about everything. It was all just completely framed in such a way that like Muslims are uncivilized, like barbarians, and we need to eradicate that. It was strong language, and I feel like we're getting over it now. But compared to, think about the way that that W was about Muslims, right? Like he was pretty chill about them. Like he never said.
But see, that's what I mean about that unification, because Bush even went out there and said, we do not go and attack people whose home are here that are Muslim.
Yeah,
You
compare
know,
that to, the way that Trump is
yeah, I
treating
mean, if
his adversaries
I
now.
could
you
just
know.
imagine how Trump would have responded. Actually, there was one Trump response that still sticks in my head because I just remember this so much. Was he said, "Well, I guess I have the tallest building in New York now."
Yeah, you think he was in on it?
Yeah, I don't think he's that vain, but
Did you see how he got the federal money for it though? That he like lied and said that he had sent a bunch of his workers down to help. He
yeah,
like
yep,
filed some papers saying he sent like 200 employees there, and it was like three guys who went on their lunch break one day or whatever.
yeah,
Like that's the kind of shit that he did his entire career, which is like that to me is like something where I wouldn't, I don't think I wouldn't vote for somebody like that, like, and then I don't think that's like an ideological thing. That's just like a scumbag businessman thing. But I think that like his people either ignore it, or they like think it's like an alpha thing,
yeah,
oh, like he doesn't pay his workers because he's a boss. Like
right.
they don't
Yeah,
understand that they are the worker.
yeah, but I mean, I guess what the takeaway I had is like there was I mean, there just hasn't been any kind of unifying moment since then because ever since that point, for those couple of months afterwards, everything just got so polarized, and we're probably, and this is probably about as far apart I've seen in this country in my
Yeah,
lifetime.
man, it's
So
definitely like it's crazy. Like it's hard to say what's going to happen, but I mean, I do think there's a way out of it. Like I do think it's possible for Biden to calm tensions, right?
yeah,
I don't know if that's
I don't know if
why
that's
he's running
true
the
for.
campaign that he's running, because I think
Right.
he's just running an inept campaign.
I think so too, but I think with Trump, I don't think he's capable of hitting the brakes. I just don't think he is. But
No, he's not. There's no
no.
way. Like that's the reason. Like the harm reduction kind of arguments make sense to me now. Like even if it leads to, 8 or 12 years of more neoliberalism, like the intensity and the opportunity for it to escalate quickly in a very bad way for most people is just it's too little too great for me to be comfortable with him having another 4 years. Like he's fucking nuts, man. Like Joe Biden's senile, but he's not nuts.
That's true. Well, all right, everybody. Looks like we're about ready to wrap up. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Make sure that you can follow the show at Unelectable A. Follow me at _ Tony Westside, or follow Matt at DJ Tom Hanks.
That's right. Hit up our Patreon too. Patreon.com/unelectable airways. We're going to be dropping our interview with Steve Cox a little bit early on the Patreon, and it'll be on the main feed eventually. But
yeah, we got the show right now that we have on our podcast feed with Mr. John Burnett is out right now. So make sure you go and listen to that if you haven't already.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Later.